Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. So one of the main drawbacks, one of the main disadvantages of being an anime only watcher of any anime series or any manga anime series is that you have to spend the time between seasons. If you ever get even a new season, you have to spend that time dodging spoilers. I have to spend that time put a lot of effort into dodging spoilers. And that is the situation in which I find myself with My Hero Academia, because with My Hero Academia the manga is always like 2 years ahead of the anime. That means that the manga is always 50 to 100 chapters ahead of the anime. So that means that I've been well aware about this whole My Villain Academia arc well in advance before the anime ever came out. But I didn't want to read up on it because I wanted to avoid spoilers, and of all the noise I was getting from it, it was like, it's an amazing arc, it's going to change the way you see the series and all those kind of things. And even though I spent 2 years dodging spoilers about the arcs, and even when the 5th season of the anime started airing, it started but with the classroom exercise between classroom B and classroom A. And even at that moment, people, as I was watching discussions around the episodes, they said, no, wait till this episode hit, you're going to love it, you're going to enjoy it. And it was more building up more hype, building up more expectations for when I finally see what is going to happen, for all the character development that is going to happen. But when I finally saw it, I have to say I was disappointed, thoroughly disappointed. It left me, I watched these things that have been built up for years, and it left me very indifferent. I started wondering what was the whole point of it. So personally, I'm going to give some reasons why I felt like the My Villain Academia, it did not just work, whether in the manga or the way it was presented in the anime. I'm going to be giving my thoughts on that. And also, here's a spoiler warning for those who have not watched season 5 of the manga, season 5 of the anime of My Hero Academia, or you haven't read and caught up to the manga. Here's a spoiler warning. So anyway, I'm going to start by talking about why it doesn't work, is how it was structured, how it was presented in the anime. It has to do with the presentation of the anime. So personally, I feel like for the story they wanted to cover, the story they had to cover, it didn't have to be 25 episodes. It didn't have to be 25 episodes because the story they wanted to cover was too little for a 25 episode run. So they had to stretch the runtime, and the pacing was all over the place. And that is a major thing, or rather one of the major contributing factors to why this season wasn't as enjoyable as the other one. And because it started out with because of the rearranging of the events, which means that what happens with the My Villain Academia is supposed to happen concurrently or just after. It's supposed to start right in the middle of the exercises and end a bit just after, so it runs almost concurrently to the same event of the hero practice versus A versus B. But the way they presenting the anime, they skip all over all that to go to after everything has happened, to start now with a different storyline where Endeavor is training Deku, Bakugo and Todoroki, which I felt like that was a major mistake, because you go through most of the season, like 17-18 episodes, watching things that don't really have any much stake in it. You see they give spotlight to side characters and they grow in some cases, but at this point, we're already well past the point of this being a high school show at this moment, because I've already seen stories that have stakes, stories that have character. Let's bring it down to this level. Okay, if we're just staying there for a small while to move on now to more important things, but no, they drag on the events. The majority of the episodes, 17 to 18 episodes, nothing major is happening, nothing exciting is happening. The only thing that happens, the most exciting thing that happens during those episodes is Deku discovering a new quirk. And the fact that Deku has multiple quirks is like it was hinted at previously, but it just kind of break. There's something fundamentally wrong, and I'm not able to express it, but I don't really like that development, and many people don't like it, but I don't really like that development. But I'll get to that another day. But anyway, I get why they rearranged the season like, because they wanted like a big exciting fight to end off the season for, and to build like the hype and anticipation for the next season. But I feel like that was a mistake, because when you're watching, as they rearrange the events, they rearrange the way they produce, they show the events, and then they show the aftermath of the events that happen, during the My Villain Academy arc, before they shows the My Villain Academy arc. It is meaningless. That means it kind of robs you of all them, because when you see the aftermath, you see Hawkeye behaving some kind of way, sending threats. It also really registered, because we are still in that whole world of like things are cookie cutter, everything is smooth. We don't know the real danger that is looming in the background. And then we spend again some time. We spend like 2-3 episodes with endeavors, which is important, but I don't think you have to spend so much time with. And Todoroki does this thing for the family relationship between the training is important, but I'm getting mixed up. What I'm trying to say is it was pointless. It was pointless to arrange the structure, and it robbed the My Villain Academia of its impact, because if the show presented the events the same way it happened in the manga, when you're watching it, a lot of questions will be going through your head. Say, oh my god, what is going to happen? What will happen to the League of Villains? What are the aftermaths of this? These are things that are going to change the world in a huge way. But when you skip all of that and then you show the aftermath of what was supposed to be a huge event, it kind of leaves people lacking. And when we go over now and show the people the event, it doesn't have the same impact it would have had if they had just presented the same. And I'll say this: they made the season too long. 25 episodes was too much for the content or the material that they wanted to cover. So that's just, I've already spoken about the structure of why the My Villain Academy underwhelming, because it was the rearranging of the events. Because I feel like if you had been presented normally, let's say the classroom stuff is dealt in 6 episodes, and then the next 4 episodes it shows the whole My Villain Academia stuff and everything, and then it leaves it at that point. It leaves it at the build up, where it leaves the season off at the build up 11 and 12. It leaves the season at the build up where Endeavor takes Todoroki and the others to train them, and Hawks is walking around making his, the mystery, walking around making his secret double agent stuff. The mystery about it would have built up the build up would have been so much more special, so much more tense than what eventually happened in the anime. So I've spoken now about the structure of the anime and why it produced underwhelming results. So now I'm going to talk about the story itself. So the story now follows the League of Villains. It's trying to show their perspectives. It tries to get us invested in their struggles, and for many of the characters there, it shows some of their backstories and all. But the thing is it is trying to bank on the fact that people feel like emotionally invested in the well-being of all of the characters in the League of Villains. And in truth, apart from Shigaraki, who has already been placed as a story as the big bad, the only characters that people really care about are Dabi, Twice, and Toga. Those are the people that they care about, but it's not like they relate to these characters because we don't know anything about them, and it's not like they particularly care about these characters. And the second thing is that when they go up against the Metal Liberation Army, they try to put them in an underdog situation, which will make you as a viewer instantly root for them. But to me, it just came off as a bunch of characters I don't particularly like, or I don't particularly invested in, are going against a huge group of faceless villains whom I don't particularly care about, whom I'm not particularly interested in, except for the character of Twice. I forgot his name. Is it Shibukawa or something? That is the only relatable person there, and that is the only person who developed his powers in a way that is really impactful and really feel, and that is the person that you most really root for. Shigaraki still has like this weird vibe about him and all those things. And then there's also that training, which is also interesting to see, but it is cut short really by the Metal Liberation Army, and the Metal Liberation Army are just introduced, and we don't really have time to like sit down and digest them, and they just start throwing character after character, wave after wave of people. I think the most memorable person from the whole Metal Liberation Army is their leader, Ridestro, and what's most memorable about him is that he looks like Doofenshmirtz, and that's just the truth of the matter. And so the whole act and everything is on the shoulders of Shigaraki, where it is through him that he's trying to tell his story, and he's trying to develop his character, and he's trying to get you invested in his story, in his growth. But I don't really feel what they're going. I did not really feel what they're going for, what they're trying to say with Shigaraki, because I just felt like his backstory is stupid and it's not really reasonable. Like a series of steps, a series of unfortunate events happens to him for him to become the person he is. I don't really feel what it kind of leaves me in a way, but I don't really know what the story or the author was trying to say. Because let me break it down. Shigaraki's backstory is very stupid. It is so stupid I can't even comprehend it. So let me touch on something. This show tries to give its characters relatable, realistic motivations. With Deku, it's not like he had any tragic story, or he's not his mother being eaten, or he was not discriminated when he was young. He just had a dream. He wanted to be a hero, but he had his dreams crushed when he discovered that he couldn't have where he doesn't have a quirk, and so he couldn't be a hero. Those kind of things. But it still goes and then gives some characters some cartoonishly evil backstories. Not cartoonish, but cartoonishly tragic backstories. But for Shigaraki, it tries to do a bit of both. It tries to give him some relatable, some realistic motivations, and then mix it now with the cartoonishly tragic backstory, which doesn't really make sense, which I say is stupid, because for him to become the murdering psychopath he is today, it doesn't really make sense. And then he tries to blame it all on his father and on Hero Society. So first of all, let me touch on his father. So his father was abusive. Not even abusive. The father was just strict, very strict. I had one strict rule: do not go playing out superheroes. I don't want my children to be superheroes. And it shows that the father had only raised a hand on him once. And everybody called him out on me, saying no, that's enough and everything. So it's not like the father was abusive, was beating him up all the time, was crushing his dreams and all. Yes, the father was definitely too strict with him, but that does not go and then turn you into a murdering psychopath. And then there are certain steps that has to go on before you reach that point. Because you watch the events, I say his father was strict on him. He's the one to play hero and who always have these strict punishments on him. He said, yes, I understand that as a child that can have negative effects on you. And during this time now, he develops his quirk and he goes out of control. And he goes out of control and he mistakenly kills his dog and his sister. And by the way, he was angry at his sister, but that's just what kids do. Kids will sell out. If you have never had a sibling or another brother, kids will sell out each other. You have to get out of trouble when they break something or break stuff, and then the parents comes in charging, and it's like, oh, who did this, who did that? And then your kid, your junior brother, they'll sell you out as quickly as they can in order to save their own skin. And that is something that happens to anybody who has siblings. But people don't just get up and go and become murdering psychopaths because their sister ratted them out on a prank that they did. Second of all, he was angry at his grandparents because and his mother, because especially his grandparents, because they just went along with his rules and his rash rules. I don't know, Shigaraki just seems like a child, not even seems, he is a child mentally. He never really matured, and I don't see how that type of person becomes a leading figure until he even enamors the leader of the Metal Liberation Army, who has a more tragic backstory and who has better motivations and can really bring out an coherent argument, and he's able to organize troops and everything. Shigaraki is just someone that wants to bring down the world, doesn't have any real motivations, doesn't really drive events himself. So the whole conclusion of the topics are, he suddenly removes some mental blocks on his power and then becomes like this angel that frightens everybody, and I don't buy it. And with wanting to give him realistic motivations, and then juxtaposing him to someone like One For All, who is just evil for the sake of evil. One For All has more of a presence, and even though his motivations are just, I want to be evil, he's just power hungry, he's just power drunk, he is still more credible as a villain than Shigaraki to me, because it doesn't matter how terrifying you draw Shigaraki or how terrifying you make his powers be, his motivations, the character doesn't really have the power to be like the big bad. And even if you say he's going to develop into a big bad, I still really find it hard because of his motivations. Like I said, his childhood was bad, but his childhood is not bad to the point where he goes on and just becomes a murdering psychopath and murder everybody and everything without anything. And his hatred against Hero Society is fabricated. It's fabricated because his hatred should be against his father, who maltreated him, but he also hates Hero Society because after he killed his parents, and he killed some accidentally, and he killed some voluntarily. So after he killed his parents, he went and was wandering in the streets, and he said nobody came to help him, nobody came to do this because they thought the hero was weak. Like, both freaking nigga. Do you know how many people, how many children end up in the streets due to unfortunate situations? But they get up and they carry their burdens and move on with it. They don't just develop this unnatural hatred towards society where they want everything to burn and everything. So he's not really relatable, and he's not someone that can really carry, where he focus a lot of time, he can carry a series or an arc to himself. There's not that much complexity and depth to his character. I don't know why people keep saying otherwise. It is just stupid. It would have been better if Shigaraki had a cartoonishly tragic backstory, like his whole island was killed, or his family died because of collateral damage made by a hero. And instead of like what happens in the boys, instead of the government reprimanding it, they shove it under the rug. That makes more sense than him going and killing his family and then ending up in the streets because nobody wants to help him, and all of a sudden he hates complete hero society. That is complete bullshit, and that is not relative, and that is not reflective of our society. And I hate when people do this, when they draw false equivalencies. They say, oh, it's just representing our society. See, I don't know in what society these Japanese people live. But if in the real truth, in the real world, where somebody sees a child walking around covered in blood, somebody is calling the authorities. If a family, because the father had a job, if the father spends 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, doesn't show up to work, they'll start calling his house or calling the authorities. Someone will call the authorities, they'll track down the child. So I don't know where they get this whole point from. The author produces this view. The author produces very childish views, like when a child wants to have mature conversations, but he's still a child, so he looks at things from a very childish perspective. Because killing your entire family, granted, like I said, he killed some accidentally, killed some voluntarily, but killing your entire family is not an appropriate response to them being strict to you. It's not an appropriate response to them being indifferent. And it's not an appropriate response, or a response that somebody should have, or a response that you should say it's reasonable. Simply because your father was a bit strict on you and all those things. It is not. And so with Shigaraki, first of all, his hatred against Hero Society is unfounded. And his position as the leader of the League of Villains, and not only the League of Villains, but the emergence with the Metal Liberation Army is also unfounded. Because I don't really sit and believe that Shigaraki would have like the presence, never charisma, because certain villains have some charisma where they just show up and people want to follow them, people want to be with them. Shigaraki lacks that, and I don't care how terrifyingly they join or how terrifying they make his powers, he doesn't have it. Someone like Reed Destro has it, but and just with his outward projection, just the way he carries himself, you already know, okay, this is someone charismatic, this is someone who draws people to him. But Shigaraki doesn't have the same presence. He hasn't really drawn anybody to him. He has been given people. It is because of Stain, and because Stain was falsely associated with the League of Villains, that the other characters came and joined him, and he was handpicked by the big boss himself, One for All. And so I'm not really buying, and like I said, the end of the conflict, where I'm not really buying the conflict where everybody just scared at him and the leader. I'm not really buying it. It's a conclusion to the story, but I'm not really buying it. And One for All, who really has very, and even One for All's motives can be understood, but he's just like evil for evil's sake, and they don't try to be deep. And with Shigaraki, is just the author trying to be deep and trying to be smart with people. But I'm sick and tired of this. Just be an anime. Just be a power anime. People have powers, they go at each other. When you sit and you want to start and have the same people attack, when you sit and then you want to start making satire, start making social commentary, and then you don't even do it well, it just makes me annoyed. It just makes me very annoyed. It's like faux intellectualism. You have to project being an intellectual, but all you're just doing is complete stupidity. And it just annoys me that many people just fall for it. It's like with the meme that came out after the Joker movie, "Oh, we live in a society." Everybody just come out and start sounding deep. Just want to sound deep. They come out and say, "Oh, we live in a society," and that is just what these people are trying to do. Especially with Shigaraki's backstory, especially with the entire character himself. And all in all, those are the reasons why I felt like the My Villain Academia arc of My Hero Academia was very underwhelming, and it wasn't at all as expected. It wasn't up to the hype that he had built up, and it wasn't up to the level of brilliance or excellence people made me believe. But those are just my thoughts. If you agree or disagree with me, let me know down below, and I'll see you in other ones. Thanks for watching.